Hi, I'm Sarah Glassberg.
I'm Brad Pilcher.
And this is AJFF in Conversation, the Jewish film podcast.
You know, ever since we started doing year-round programming a few years back, you can pretty much always count on there being a lot going on at AJFF at pretty much any given moment in the year.
It's very true. We can attest to that. And even with our pivot to virtual last year with this podcast, of course, webinars and Playback, there was still a lot on offer for our audiences.
So, you know, we thought it was important to take a week to just let listeners know about some of the programming that's coming up that you may not already know about.
In particular, if outdoor plans are thwarted by summer southern rain, or you're like me and just want to beat the heat a little bit and stay in with some of these virtual offerings, there are some really not to be missed events coming up, and really something for everyone. So I will just get us started with the event that is coming up soonest, today, actually, as of when this episode will be out there in the world. And that is our next edition of AJFF Selects. We just started Selects back up in May with a Canadian musical romance. And here we are with a very different film, a docudrama called The Red Orchestra.
Yeah, this is a unique film, I think. I have seen so many documentaries that use all sorts of tricks. This one is, I think, the first one that has intermixed clips from old movies with talking heads footage, with archival footage in a way that just genuinely feels fresh and interesting to me. For those who do not know, it is about an anti-Nazi resistance network that's operating within the Third Reich. They were spying for the Soviets. I am a sucker for anything that has to do with spy stories. But, you know, it's a documentary. So what is there to expect from a World War II documentary? We've all seen 1,000 World War II documentaries. Sarah, I don't know if you reacted similarly to as I did to this film, but it really does have a sort of fresh structure, a fresh approach.
I completely agree. And for me, approaching this film, I studied abroad in Berlin, and I am fascinated by Cold War history. And so the fact that the films he's weaving into his tapestry of talking about this kind of mythical seeming, Red Orchestra resistance group, he uses these narrative films that came out in East and West Germany, respectively. And so to see how there was a narrative representation and how that even differed between East and West when Germany was divided during the Cold War, that to me was just really fascinating. And of course, the other exciting thing is we have a Q&A, and it'll be available even after the film is out of our virtual cinema, so we could talk about that too.
Yeah, the Q&A, which has already been recorded, so we've seen it, so we can attest that it is fantastic. It's going to be moderated by Dr. Deborah Lipstadt, who is well known in the community. She's an Emory professor, Holocaust historian. She is one of the few people in the world who can say that she was played by Rachel Weisz in a movie, in the movie Denial. But she's a phenomenal historian, and always sort of fun to have as part of AJFF programming. She moderates a discussion with the film's director. And I got to tell you, again, it's one of those things where I've seen 1,000 of these documentaries, and going into the Q&A, I actually hadn't had a chance to watch the movie yet when we recorded it. It is one of the most lively, substantive discussions I think I've seen in all of our recent Q&As. You actually were a TA for Dr. Lipstadt, so you know her better than anybody on AJFF. What did you think of the Q&A?
Well, I completely agree, and that's one of those fun facts to pull out at parties, I guess. I guess depending on where you are, I love just kind of getting to say I was Deborah Lipstadt's TA. So it's always nice for me to have her back and to deal with her. To work with her in a different way, obviously, than when I was a grad student at Emory. The conversation, it flowed. It was interesting. It enhanced everything that you will have seen in the documentary. The filmmaker had really fascinating things to contribute to that conversation. And so just knowing how Deborah Lipstadt teaches and then seeing her kind of lead something like this, it's always incredible to watch, and definitely not something to miss.
There was something else we've all recorded too, though. I want you to make sure to tell the audience about this, because there's an intro that we're going to put in front of the film. There's a Q&A you can watch afterwards, but tell me about the intro.
That is exactly what I was going to segue into, because I was just very excited by this. There is an author named Rebecca Donner who has a book coming out about her great great aunt, who you will learn about in the Red Orchestra. She was the only American person in that resistance group, and so her great great niece wrote this book and also appears in the film. And so we got a very brief, we had an opportunity to have a brief intro from her, which I just think is really lovely. I think our audience is going to really enjoy hearing from her about how she got kind of involved in the film while she was doing research in Germany for her book and everything like that. So that was very cool for me, and I'm excited to read that book.
It's just a cool program all around, from the intro to the Q&A to the film. And it's just one of these hidden stories, because the Red Orchestra, which, by the way, one of the coolest names for a spy ring I've ever heard, but because they were spying for the Soviets after the war, their story kind of got buried. So a lot of people have never really heard about this story. So I'm just really excited for people to see it, which they can do now. We're recording this about a week beforehand, but when you hear this episode, this film will be in the AJFF virtual cinema. Tickets are $16 per household, but from 7 o'clock on Thursday, June 24th, until Sunday night on June the 27th, you can watch this film. You can watch the Q&A anytime, starting on June the 24th. It's going to be in the virtual cinema with the film, but it's also going to be on our YouTube channel on AJFF.org. The intro will be with the film in the virtual cinema. It's all incredible, and it's all available now. So please do not miss out, because you don't have much time. If you're listening to this the day we drop it, you've only got a couple of days. If you're listening to this a day or two after we dropped it, you really have even less time than that. So we really encourage you to go to ajff.org/selects, get your ticket, watch this film. It's really fantastic. And I should say special thanks to the Helen Marie Stern Fund and the German Consulate, both of whom are sponsoring this film and helping to make it possible for our audiences. So thank you to them. Helen Marie Stern's fund is the sponsor of all of our Selects films, actually. And it's an interesting year. We're doing these virtually. I think our hope is to maybe do some in-person selects later this year, but for now, the virtual cinema is a big hit, and people are really enjoying being able to watch these movies at home.
Definitely. I think people just over the course of the last year found ways to get comfortable with technology and watching things at home. It's not the same as that communal theater experience like we always talk about, but yes, I'm glad that you shouted out our sponsors for this, because these virtual programs I think are still very important. So it's always nice to recognize them. And Brad, I think there is another sort of long an event that lasts longer into the summer, which I think is very cool, and it's very different from any of the virtual screening type things that we are going to be talking about and doing. So tell me about this year's Playback.
Well, I can tell you there is a Playback this year, which is, I think people didn't realize that we were going to do this again last year. For those who do not remember, we launched a sort of March Madness style interactive film competition. In the middle of the pandemic, we wanted to give people something fun, something exciting. We wanted to celebrate the fact that last year was our 20th anniversary. And so we went back into our vaults and we pulled a bunch of films that we had shown at previous festivals, and we put them sort of in head-to-head matchups every week for the audience to vote on their favorite, and then keep doing that as they moved through the bracket. And it was incredibly popular, so we're bringing it back. It's going to be starting on July 12th. As we are recording this, we are finalizing the film selections for this coming Playback. It's going to be, a little different from last year. Last year was themed around the 20th anniversary. This first Playback is going to be 8 films. It's going to span 7 weeks, and it's going to be themed around films about reunion. All of the films that we're picking have some aspect of reunion, of people coming back together and reconnecting. And we felt like, look, the pandemic is not over. People are, getting vaccinated. However, people are starting to get back to some sense of normalcy, and people are starting to have reunions. I mean, every day I'm seeing people who haven't seen each other in a year or more being able to come back together, reconnect, have those reunions. It's something that's really magical and special to watch. And we thought, what better theme could we possibly use for Playback. So it's coming back. It's really going to be an amazing program, and it's going to go on for a couple of months.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite aspects of it, honestly. It just feels interactive. It feels engaging, like a project. And I should mention too that once this is out, we will know some of those matchups and films, and we can talk about them. So we hope to have Shelley Schmalls on, who listeners of this podcast will know is our film programming manager, because Playback is really so many kudos to her, like for this creative theme and Playback in general. I think it's something that our audiences probably haven't seen elsewhere, and certainly haven't interacted with AJFF in any kind of way like this before. So it's just it's just a really cool program. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and it's one of those interesting programs that it always surprises us. We these are all great films. We all love these films. They're kind of darlings of past festivals, and people really enjoy getting a chance to watch them again and vote. And we never can guess exactly which films are going to win the vote every week, but so it's fun to kind of watch in real time and share with your friends and get them engaged and sort of root for your pick. And if your pick isn't winning, you can always go out there and try to rally support. So that's the fun part. This year though, it's helpful because we have the virtual cinema. Last year we did not, so we were really sort of stuck picking films that were available in other services like Netflix or Amazon Prime or wherever. And in this case, we are able to take the films from the whole archive, from all 20 years. We were able to sort of dive into the films and really be able to sort of have our pick, because we weren't stuck having to limit ourselves to the ones that were on other services. So all of the films are going to be in the virtual cinema. So you can buy tickets every week, or you can buy a pass for the entire Playback tournament and watch all of the films at a discount. But it's a great way to engage over the summer and engage with your friends and have little debates and see how the voting is going. It's just a lot more of that interactivity and that sense of community than just watching a film.
Absolutely. And I love that aspect of it too, right? As you are reuniting with your friends and your communities, this is something that can certainly be shared, even though it is, again, still virtual. And speaking of community, that is a big part of the next program that we want to discuss and let you know about, which is something that's very important to me and close to my heart. And I'm so excited for it. Essentially, we used to do AJFF Connects and had to put it on pause last year due to the pandemic. And this is just a way to really engage with our partners in the community and different diverse parts of Atlanta and, other organizations, and ask, what kind of programming do you want to see that would be important, and meld our two audiences together in a really meaningful way and spark interesting, important conversations. So I am so thrilled to have AJFF Connects back this month for Pride Month, in partnership with our friends Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ film festival, and Sojourn, the Southern Jewish Resource Network for Gender and Sexual Diversity. And the film is another documentary that is just so poignant and timely, called Double Income Kids. So it's following an Israeli same-sex couple over the course of a year, and they want twins and, enlist the help of an American surrogate mother. So there's a lot there, and we have some
to unpack in that film. It's really to me. First of all, I adopted my son. My wife and I weren't able to have children naturally, so we adopted. So anytime you get into kind of a story where people are having to deal with the sort of hurdles to becoming parents, those always sort of pull on my heartstrings a little bit more than the average story. And this is one of those films that really is, it's poignant, it's personal, it's very powerful, but it also sort of spans a lot of ground. It gets into a whole lot of issues, both issues just around, being a same-sex couple and wanting to start a family and what that's like, but also the unique experiences that they have in Israel, being Jewish, being Israeli, dealing with their families, dealing with, surrogacy, which is not, it's one of those things where people do it, but it's always like, until you've done it or until you've had a chance to talk to somebody who's gone through that process, it sounds really crazy that you're going to have somebody who's going to carry your child and then they're going to give it up. And what is that like for them? It's just, there's so much to unpack in this movie. And the director, Hendrik Schaefer, who I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, but he did a phenomenal job of sort of weaving all of those aspects into this one documentary. I really can't take my hat off enough to what he accomplished.
I completely agree. And I think you did pronounce his name right. I'm rusty with my German, but I do think that's the pronunciation.
You would know better than I would. Every time I see special little dots and lines and squigglies on top of letters, I get scared.
Yes, I am like that with other languages besides German, and I'm barely comfortable with German. But Hendrik Schaefer, yes, I agree. And what's so exciting about this is that he will actually be participating live in a virtual lobby. So we did virtual lobbies during the film festival this past February, and they were really successful. It's just a way to kind of bring our audience together on a live Zoom with special guests, have a facilitated conversation, contribute comments and questions to those guests, to the facilitators, drop them in the chat. It's a really cool way of seeing each other, quite frankly, and having a communal experience, especially for a film like this. It's a difficult topic, or there's many difficult topics in it, as we've been saying. So, I think this is an important film to have a conversation about. And Jim Farmer, the director of Out on Film, and Rebecca Staple-Wax, the director of Sojourn, they really contextualized, Brad, a lot of what you were saying about the issues that this film spans in their intro to the film. And they'll be facilitating the virtual lobby with the director. So we're very excited for that. And that is going to be Wednesday, June 30th at 12 noon. And the film will be in our virtual cinema Sunday, the 27th through Wednesday.
Yes, which is, yeah. And the film's a little bit discounted. It's only $10 per household. But I wanted to point out, they're doing Out on Film and Sojourn are doing more than just facilitating the virtual lobby. They're also giving away prizes, right?
Yes. Again, we definitely want to have some fun, even though this is a difficult, heavy film in some ways. But, there is also a Pride Month celebration aspect to this. So we're very excited for Out on Film and Sojourn to each contribute some very special prizes. So if you've never been to Out on Film, if you've never been to Purim of Ponce, which is the best costume party you will find in Atlanta, we have an opportunity, if you attend the virtual lobby, to potentially win either of those in a kind of raffle giveaway. But of course, it can't all be fun. So not that this isn't fun in some way. It's fun to kind of have a call to action as well in an event like this. And in Connect, it's very important to leave everyone with, something to do next after having this conversation and learning and all of that. So that's going to be a component as well.
Yeah, there's going to be some information about Family Equity, which is an organization I'm very fond of. It's they focus on parental rights and LGBTQ plus adoption. And one of the things that, as somebody who went through the adoption process with my wife, I was struck by how many adoption agencies there are that don't cater to LGBTQ adoptive parents. They don't. Some of those agencies only deal with Christian families, and we weren't LGBTQ plus, but we were Jewish, and we were like, well, we had a hard time finding an agency that we felt good about and that we wanted to work with. It's frustrating. It's heartbreaking. It seems like a relic of a different time, but it's not, unfortunately. So getting to know a little bit more about that organization. And again, this film raises a lot of issues, and this is an opportunity to talk about some of those. There was just a Supreme Court case on this very issue yesterday that came down. So, I'm excited about that aspect of it. But, at the end of the day, it's just a great film. So if you really like these kinds of stories and you really want to see a really kind of heartfelt but really substantial documentary, this one is a great way to wrap up Pride Month and a great way to wrap up June in general. And it's, it's a steal. It's only $10 per household. Yeah,
it's going to be a great virtual lobby event too. To get access to that, you have to have a ticket. And I think the conversation will be so much about the filmmaking, as well as obviously the issues that are raised by the film, like we've been saying. So I know we've said this about pretty much everything we talked about today, but I really think this is not to be missed to close out Pride Month, as you said. Yeah. And all these organizations, Family to Family Equality, Out on Film, Sojourn. We also have some promotional partners that we'll recognize during the virtual lobby who are spreading the word to their communities. Once again, we really could do this or spread awareness or anything that is so important to our mission without, the support and partnership of all of these fantastic groups doing the work in the community.
So all of the information about this film and the virtual lobby is at ajff.org/connects. And just a reminder, I know we said it already, but it's going to be in the virtual cinema from Sunday, June 27th at noon until Wednesday, June 30th at noon. And Wednesday, June 30th at noon is also when the virtual lobby will be taking place. And that's a live event, so you really have to sort of be there at noon on that Wednesday. And also, I think it's wonderful that we're doing this because it was about a year ago, a little more than that, right after the 2020 festival, when Sojourn honored AJFF. I was sick. The film festival nearly did me in, and I was sick, so I actually missed that event. But that was I think the last thing that we did as a team before the pandemic kind of sent us all to our home offices, was going in costume to be honored by Sojourn, and to be able to do this kind of program with them and have it be the first Connects back since the pandemic, I think means something to me. So I'm really looking forward to it personally.
Same here. I am so lucky to be on the board of Sojourn and see the work that they do firsthand, and to know that we are, that Sojourn is trying to touch a lot of different communities in the Southeast, quite frankly. And what's great about this film too is it's actually not limited to Georgia. So if you are listening to this in the Southeast or in New York, and these are issues that are important to you, or you have Atlanta ties and know about the work that Sojourn does or Out on Film, this is something that you actually could partake in as well, which is really cool. And one thing about Parma Ponce, I said that it's Atlanta's best costume party. I know that there is a date that we'll mention for that's already in place for next year. And I just wanted to say that it was so fun to see our executive director, Kenny Blank, be honored in this ridiculously shiny, like Neptune costume. I don't know, but if that, and I wore a Chewbacca dress. So, out there representing film in some way. No, but it was really fun.
I liked your costume way more.
The best part is it's actually a dress, not even a costume. Worn it before anyway. But yeah, so if that sounds fun to you and you want a chance to win passes to that next year, there's always an honoree that's different. This year actually it was 20 under 21, which was really cool, again, to kind of reach youth that are on the front lines doing the work for equity and gender and sexual diversity. So anyway, you could tell that this is a film and an event that's important to both of us in different ways, and we hope to see you there. And we hope to see you at all of these events virtually, and one day back in the theater when we have programming in theaters.
Maybe soon. The vaccines are rolling out. We're exploring when we're going to be back in theaters again, and hopefully we can do some stuff late summer, early fall. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, if you're interested in any of these programs, they're all at ajff.org, ajff.org/selects, ajff.org/connects, ajff.org/playback. So check them out. Enjoy them. We can't stress enough how not missable they all are. And as Sarah said, yes, all of North America, Canadians are welcome to watch Double Income Kids as part of the Connects program. So, Sarah, until next time.
We are your hosts, Sarah Glassberg
and Brad Pilcher.
Also producing is Chris Holland, who is also our technical director and editor.
The music you are humming to right now, as always, is from the incomparable Joe Alterman. Please look him up whenever and wherever you get your music.
You can always find more from us as well as show notes at ajff.org/inconversation. Our email address is inconversation@ajff.org. Drop us a line with questions and we might just answer in future episodes.
Don't forget, as always, to subscribe in your podcast app of choice or check out our YouTube channel for new episodes. Give us a rating, a review. Every little bit helps.
We should also mention that just like we could not put on such awesome programming without the wonderful sponsors and partnerships in the community that we've been talking about, we cannot continue to do this podcast or any of our other digital programs, quite frankly, without the support of listeners like you. So if you are willing, please make a donation at ajff.org/inconversation. And of course, please tell your friends about the show. Until next time, goodbye.